Good morning and welcome to the official launch of the Signpost programme. This Teagasc-led initiative is a partnership between more than 40 companies, farming organisations from the agri-food sector, who have joined forces with our farmers to deal with the whole area of climate change and the challenge that it poses for the years ahead. I believe that this programme that we're launching today has the potential to be a programme of global dimensions. It is worth noting that the United Nations, when they are discussing their food systems later this year, they're using as their template the manner in which we deal with the whole area of sustainability, how we deal with food, whether it be the way it is produced, processed, or even the manner in which we think about food. Each generation and each decade brings about its own changes and challenges. And I have no doubt that the challenge for the next decade will be the whole area of climate change and climate challenge. From a farmer's perspective, to put it simply, that is all about adapting the best science practices for the years ahead. But this is nothing new for the farming community. Farmers, by their very nature, are business people, entrepreneurs that trust science and innovation and are well capable in making the adjustments ahead. If we look at the many changes that have taken place in farming over many years, we could look back at the way farmers dealt in a positive way with entry into the EU. Then we had the challenges associated with the introduction of milk quota, the many challenges in relation to CAP reform, and then the very positive way that our farmers dealt with the abolition of milk quotas in more recent years. What is hugely important as we move forward together is that companies, research, and our farmers are joined at the hip together, and that we deal with this in a positive and proactive way. But I believe what is hugely important is that research for the future must be a part of day-to-day farm management practices. And one thing that really singles out and stands out for me is the recent development of Teagasc's MAC curve. This is something that is being used by many of our progressive farmers, and I have no doubt that many further developments in the area of research and innovation are in the pipeline to be introduced in the months and years ahead. This is something that will significantly enhance the role of all of us playing a positive role in dealing with the climate challenge and issue from a collective perspective in the years ahead. Now, I just want to hand you over to our Teagasc Head of Research, Professor Frank O'Mara, who will outline the reasoning and rationale for the Signpost programme. Frank O'Mara.
Along with our partners, we are launching the Signpost programme today to help tackle climate change, arguably the greatest environmental challenge of our time and one that threatens the favourable climate we have for agriculture here in Ireland. Farmers farm first and foremost to make a living, but we all have a duty to care for our environment, the air, the water, the biodiversity all around us. Globally, customers want to buy food with a low environmental footprint. And as a country that exports 90% of our main products, we have a need to produce food with that low environmental footprint and delight these customers. Agriculture here in Ireland is responsible for about 35% of our greenhouse gas emissions. And now is the time to show that we can reduce those emissions and contribute to solving the climate issue. We have the science and technology that can reduce emissions. We have the whole of industry aligned and wanting to make progress. And we have the Signpost farmers willing to adopt these technologies and point the way forward.
Ready? I would like to introduce you to a short pre-recorded video by our Taoiseach Micheál Martin and Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine, Charlie McConaughey.
I'm delighted to join you today at the official launch of the Teagasc Signpost programme. This is a very significant day for Irish agriculture. The Signpost programme is a collaborative approach to transition towards more sustainable farming systems. This is both a challenge and an opportunity, and I know that the sector is up for it. Our society has faced an extraordinary series of challenges in recent times. The COVID-19 pandemic remains the most immediate issue, but we cannot lose sight of the other big challenges. The climate crisis grows ever more urgent, and tackling it remains an absolute imperative for the sake of future generations. The agriculture sector is Ireland's most important indigenous industry. It plays and will continue to play a vital role in Ireland's economy and our rural communities. It also has a crucial role to play in meeting the challenge of climate change while creating resilient farms for generations to come. The Ag Climatised Roadmap, published by my colleague Minister McConalogue last December, sets out a series of actions to deliver emissions reductions over the years ahead. It is an important first step on our pathway to meeting our 2030 emissions targets and onward journey to climate neutrality by 2050. One of the actions is to establish a network of exemplar farms, and I'm very pleased that this action is being delivered upon today. This Signpost programme will demonstrate solutions to optimise your on-farm decision-making for both the benefit of the planet and your pocket. Farming is uniquely placed to be part of the solution to the climate crisis as both an emissions source and sink. Farmers must be supported to continue to protect the carbon stored in our soils, while also doing more to both reduce emissions and store even more carbon. Research and innovation is providing many improved technologies to help meet our targets for sustainable farming. However, having the science without empowering farmers to adopt it is not enough. Teagasc have proven that it is possible to translate scientific knowledge, research and expertise into practical solutions. This initiative is the type of forward thinking the Irish agri-food sector needs by embracing the message of sustainability, connecting peers and demonstrating best practice on the ground. As you know, every single farm in Ireland is unique and every farmer must set out on their own sustainability journey. The Signpost programme will help them take that journey. The Signpost programme will showcase the benefits of science-based technologies which can reduce emissions and environmental impact. It will also create a national network of farms where carbon sequestration in grassland and hedgerows can be examined. I know this is a critical issue for Irish farmers. Economic and social sustainability also remains central to everything we do. By demonstrating best practice on farms, many environmental initiatives can also have a positive impact on the farm's bottom line. I'm also very determined, as is Minister McConalogue, to ensure that we have a future common agricultural policy that is fit for purpose and that can underpin the changes required over the years ahead. I'm excited about the future. This decade will be a decade of change for Irish agriculture, and the Teagasc Signpost programme will play an important part. Our ability to adapt to changing circumstances will be critical as we strive to build a more resilient, sustainable and greener future for Irish agriculture and for our country. I am confident that this programme that we are launching today will be of enormous benefit to the sector over the years ahead. I wish you every best wishes in the time ahead. Gur míle maith agaibh, agus gan roig an tálamh.
As we know, agriculture has a critically important social, economic and environmental value to Ireland. As Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine, I'm passionate about delivering for our farm families and showcasing the fantastic work our sector does across society. As an industry, farming has consistently embraced change and has a shared desire to leave their farm and the environment in a better condition for the next generation. Our farmers are true pioneers in this regard. I welcome the launch of the Signpost programme as a whole of industry initiative to lead climate action and the protection of the environment. This is an innovative and ground-up programme that I know will yield tremendous benefits for our farmers, the entire sector and society as a whole. The commitment by the Signpost programme farmers and partners to work with all farmers to enable them to make the changes needed to achieve our climate goals is significant. I believe that farmers are in the best position to manage land for future environmental benefits. Small changes at farm level can reduce emissions while also improving farm incomes. Finally, I commend all the partner organisations and the farmers who've committed to the Signpost programme and wish both them and Teagasc success on the transition to more sustainable farming systems. Many thanks and best wishes.
Thanks, Taoiseach and Minister. It is appropriate that I acknowledge our government support and commitment to our Signpost programme. I will now hand you over for our live broadcast this morning to RTE's Helen Carroll, who will introduce some guests to you later this morning. Over to you, Helen.
Thank you, Liam. Well, I'd like to welcome you all to the launch of the Signpost programme. We have people tuning in from all over the country, from overseas. We have partners in the programme, lots of interested parties, members of the press and, of course, farmers. This morning, we will introduce you to Signpost. We'll explain what this ambitious 5-year programme entails. We'll talk to one of the partners involved, get the view from Brussels, and introduce you to a couple of the new Signpost programmes. There will be an opportunity for you to put questions to us as well. At the bottom of your Zoom screen, there's a box entitled Q&A. Type your question in there, tap send, and the questions will get to us, and we will do our best to get to as many of them as possible. But first, we're going to head to Brussels. And joining us from there is Director for Sustainability and Income Support, DG Agri at the European Commission, Pierre Bascu. Good morning, Pierre. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
You have set very ambitious targets for European agriculture. Can you explain to us, Pierre, in very simple terms, what are you asking of European farmers?
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, and good morning to everybody. Yes, as you said, the EU has set a series of very ambitious, but in our view, achievable targets for the European agricultural sector, which are part of a global ambition set by the Green Deal that aims at ensuring a new growth strategy for the EU economy, so changing the way we produce and changing the way we consume, in order to make the EU fully sustainable, resource efficient, competitive, and above all, climate neutral by 2050, with an intermediate target of at least 55% reduction of greenhouse gas emission by 2030. And in this endeavor, the agricultural sector, and I would say the agricultural sector as part, I think, of the food system, has an essential and specific role to play, as it has been explained in the Farm to Fork strategy adopted by the Commission, and that translates, I think, this Green Deal ambition into more concrete elements for the food sector. And in this Farm to Fork strategy, we have set a series of targets. A target in relation to pesticide use, we want to see reduced by 50%. Target in relation to nutrients, but we want to see the losses of nutrients reduced by 50%. We want to see the sale of antimicrobial reduced by 50%. We want to see 25% of agricultural land in the EU under organic farming, and also we want to see 10% of agricultural land devoted to biodiversity. And in this endeavor, the Signpost program, in our view, is very important because it can help reducing the climate and environmental impact of the farming sector, but it can also offer some important economic opportunities for the farmers. We shouldn't forget also this part, I think, of the sustainability dimension.
I know you are familiar with the Signpost programme. Is there anything similar to that running anywhere else in Europe here?
To be frank with you, I haven't heard, about similar initiatives in other member states. And for this, I do believe that the Signpost program is very important, but it's quite unique in the way it is designed. And this for 3 reasons. The first one is that first, it will be a major support for farmers in this necessary transition to full sustainability. Second, and it has been mentioned before, it is a program which is based on a collaborative approach that involves all actors, not only farmers, but also all actors across, I think, the agricultural industry. And this is, in our view, important because we need to support farmers in the uptake of good practices, of new technologies that aim at reducing the climate and environmental impact. But we need also to induce a change in the whole food system. This is very important. And the last point that I would like to mention is that this program should really make a difference in supporting the Irish farming industry and food sector to contribute to this Green Deal. And I would like to underline that the Green Deal is absolutely essential and critical if we want to address, I think, climate change and also biodiversity loss, which are the two biggest environmental challenges of our time.
As you mentioned, it is a transition, and there's lots of talk at the moment about just transition. So to get all the partners on board, how do you do that? Is it about incentivizing it?
Well, it's a mixture of incentivizing, and for this, I think the future CAP and the National Strategic Plan, I think, will have a critical role to play. But it's also an issue, I think, of providing, incentive through, I think, demonstration. And there, the demonstration farms are absolutely critical. And in my view, they are a kind of a unique feature, I think, of this program. They are very important, I think, to facilitate the adoption of new technologies, of new practices. They are also critical in raising awareness. They're also very critical in our view because there's in agriculture, much more than in other sectors, I think the impact of practices and technologies are linked, I think, to factors which are often, very local and very variable. They very often depend on pedoclimatic conditions, on local farm structure, etc. And demonstration farms, I think, will be very important to tailor these best practices and technologies, I think, to the local and specific condition of farmers, because we shouldn't forget that we need to address, I think, the needs of all farmers, not only in Ireland, of course, but across, I think, the whole EU.
Pierre, the Signpost programme, it's a 5-year programme. Is it something that will be watched closely in Brussels as we move through the 5 years?
Yes, I think very much, because as I said, through the future CAP and the strategic plan, I think the EU intend, I think, to provide a framework support, I think, for the farming community through financial instruments. But once again, it will be also very important to basically raise awareness of farmers and provide them, I think, with the best advice and the best, I would say, accompanying ecosystem, I think, around them. And so for the next, 5 years until 6 years, I would say, up to 2027, it will be very important thing for us, I think, to see to what extent, I think, this program that will combine demonstration farms, raising awareness, and access, I think, to financial support, whether, I think, they will be able to deliver on these, once again, ambitious, but in our view, achievable targets.
Well, as you were saying, in your view, it is achievable. How confident are you that these targets can be reached within Europe?
Well, I think we are confident because for us, achieving these targets is not an option. It's really, I think, a necessity. As I said before, climate change, biodiversity loss, but also the economic competitiveness of farms, are extremely important. There's a lot of new opportunities, I think, for the farming sector. So it is absolutely critical that these targets, which are very ambitious, are met. And what we want is to, I would say, to take, I think, not only the primary sector, but I think we want to induce a change in the whole food system, because it's not only an issue of changing in production systems, it's also an issue of changing the way, I think, we consume food product, or the way we consume product in general, because it is not, once again, it is not only an issue for the food sector, but for the whole EU economy. So we are determined and we are confident.
Okay, well, we will leave it there, Pierre Bascu, a very confident Pierre Bascu from Brussels. Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
And joining us now in studio is representing one of the partners in the Signpost programme, Board Bia. We have Deirdre Ryan from Board Bia, and Deirdre is Director of Origin Green and Sustainable Assurance. Deirdre, thank you very much for joining us. The environmental footprint of Irish food has really never been so important, has it, Deirdre?
Absolutely. The environmental and indeed market challenges are mounting, so decreasing our environmental footprint is critical. We export 90% of what we produce, and that's built on our reputation. That reputation is about our natural advantages, our grass-based systems, our commitment to sustainability and high-quality food. So it's really critical for us.
I suppose just one way of demonstrating just how critical it is, even commercially how critical it is, would be looking at a lot of the partners who have signed up to Signpost.
Absolutely. We really experience it's becoming increasingly part of buying decisions. Sustainability is. In 2012, Origin Green was developed because of those commercial imperatives. But 9 years into the programme, it's more important than ever. It's more mainstream. We really see global customers of Irish food looking to their supply chains, to their suppliers for solutions. So they're setting science-based targets, net zero commitments, and looking for support from their supply chain.
Mentioning Origin Green, Deirdre, it has come in for some criticism lately. I suppose, are you hopeful that being a partner in the Signpost programme might help address some of those criticisms?
There has been some, I would say, undue criticism despite the progress made by our 54,000 farmer members and 300 companies that are signed up and implementing sustainability plans. But, the challenges, the environmental targets that we have set out are incredibly difficult and achievable, but difficult. So it's important that we really collaborate, and the Signpost Farm initiative is a great opportunity to implement the MAC measures, the scientific knowledge that we have, and transfer it. And we really want to work with Teagasc to amplify the learnings and bring them to our members. So it's a fantastic opportunity, and we're really excited to be part of it and partners.
If we do improve the environmental footprint, when we do improve the environmental footprint of Irish food, will that add a premium to the price?
Sustainability really is an opportunity to differentiate. We do see that our companies believe that being members of sustainability initiatives and Origin Green programme and so on provides a competitive advantage. So it really is that opportunity to differentiate. But I do believe there's certain attributes and how they're positioned and brought to the consumer that can command a premium, be it grass-fed, etc.
A lot of farmers would say that most of the pressure is being applied at farm level to make our food more sustainable. Is enough being done by Irish companies once the food leaves the farm to reduce the carbon footprint?
I suppose the 300 companies signed up to Origin Green and the commitment to the Signpost Farm is testament of the commitment to support, but they're as I said, the challenges are very difficult, and there needs to be more done across the supply chain. I think everybody needs to do more to meet these challenges. So, supply chain collaboration is critical, and really working together, both be it messaging, guidance, tools, and supports for farmers. Because, I suppose 80% of emissions is in farm gates. So that's an area where we do need to really focus attention, and hence the collaboration today being launched. So it's a great opportunity.
Irish consumers have really never been as interested in the backstory of their food, have they?
No, and I think we've really seen this, come to the fore with COVID as well. Consumers are really hoping to play their part and, trying to make environmentally friendly decisions, to be corporately responsible. Customers and consumers really wanting to know where their food comes from, how it's made, and how they can play a part. So this really is driven by consumers, customers, as well as the policy and environmental challenges.
Irish food, I suppose we pride ourselves on the good reputation it has outside Ireland. Yeah. Do we live up to that reputation?
There is, a very good reputation of Irish food internationally. And when we compare ourselves internationally, we are doing quite well in terms of our grass-based systems and sustainability improvements. And we are recognised for that. We have a recent buyer study that has 89% recognition of Ireland as a sustainable source of produce. So we really need to live up to that reputation and continue to provide evidence to show that we are.
At the end of the 5 years, what will make the Signpost programme worthwhile for Bord Bia? What's a good result for Bord Bia?
So we really want to take the learnings from the Signpost programme and amplify them, to scale them to our on-farm assessments, integrate the supports and guidance into the farm feedback reports that are being distributed via the SBS and SDS programme. But success really is the reduction in emissions, and that we really are able to protect and build our reputation in international markets.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Deirdre Ryan from Bord Bia. Thank you very much for joining us. Now we've got another short video for you explaining what exactly the Signpost programme is.
Signpost programme is a partnership of over 30 companies and organisations from across the Irish agricultural sector. Together, we will work with Irish farmers to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, to reduce ammonia emissions, to reduce nutrient losses, to enhance biodiversity, to save farmers costs, and to improve the efficiency of food production. The Signpost farmers will be central to the Signpost programme and will point the way forward for all farmers to a climate-smart farming future. We will work with the Signpost farmers to enable them to change how they farm, such that they reduce the emissions from agriculture on their farm while maintaining or indeed improving profitability. To get better value from nutrients in cattle slurry, to use protected urea as their source of fertilizer nitrogen, to incorporate clover into their grassland swards, to reduce the overall amount of chemical fertilizer nitrogen applied, to enhance and improve biodiversity and hedgerows on their farm, to reduce the finishing age of animals finished on their farms. By making these changes and some others, the Signpost farmers can and will reduce their emissions while maintaining profitability. At the same time, we will engage all farmers through the Signpost advisory campaign.
To engage all farmers in this campaign, the programme will be supported by Teagasc advisory and education staff, as well as private and industry advisors. The service will be delivered through a network of discussion groups, events, one-to-one consultations, training and media, both traditional and digital. Farmers will have the opportunity to track the Signpost farmer in their own local area and hopefully be inspired to make changes on their own farm to reduce gaseous emissions. Education of the next generation of farmers, as well as training of all farmers, will be a priority in this programme for the next couple of years.
Change is not always easy, but it is possible. It does take time, but we can change how we farm. We have changed how we farm before. New solutions to reduce emissions from agriculture are available. Let's work together for climate action by Irish agriculture. Let's make a start today.
And we're joined now by Tom O'Dwyer from that video, who's head of the Signpost programme. And just a reminder again, you're more than welcome to send in questions. Hit the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen, type in your question, and we will try to get through as many of them as possible. Tom, thank you very much for joining us. The Signpost programme essentially really is about looking at how we farm in Ireland.
Yes, I think you could summarise it like that. As some of the previous speakers have alluded to, we are going to have to look at how we farm. And it's not that we're going to change what we do, it's about how we do it. So we're still going to produce high quality milk, meat, tillage cereal crops and so on. It's just how we go about doing it is going to have to be modified.
Are you asking farmers to make very big changes?
I don't think so. Some of the changes will be easily made. More will require some additional skills and some change in farm practices. So for two examples, one of the most significant shifts that farmers could make in order to reduce emissions from agriculture would be to switch to using protected urea. So a lot of our chemical fertilizer nitrogen is applied as calcium ammonium nitrate. And if farmers were to switch that to protected urea, it would make a significant shift in emissions. So that we consider that's a reasonably straightforward shift. Another one then that I'll give as an example is switching to incorporate clover into our grassland swards. That probably takes a little bit more work because new skills have to be got by the farmers, because the sward will have to be managed in a different way than what they're used to. So that might be a little bit more difficult. And the final point I make on it, I suppose, is that our partners in this program, if we all work together, we can enable and support farmers to make the changes, and we can make those changes somewhat easier. So on the example of the fertilizer, if the only fertilizer that's in stock in the local store when the farmer goes to purchase a fertilizer, well, the decision is more or less taken out of the farmer's hands because the only product that's there is protected urea. So, things like that can help, and through the Signpost program, we'll be working to make those switches in farming practices as easy as possible for farmers.
If we look at the changes that farmers have been asked to make, and one change that a lot of people are calling for is a reduction in the size of our national herd. Is the national herd something that the Signpost programme is looking at?
Not specifically. I guess that will be decided by legislators. So we heard Pierre Pascal talk about, European Commission making recommendations. And then the Irish government will make recommendations, and the Signpost programme will have to reflect those legislative and regulatory changes. And our advice will change accordingly.
We have a question in already for you, Tom, from Shay. Shay is asking, will the targets outlined, which are designed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the EU, also result in a decrease in agricultural output? And will this reduction then have to be met by imports?
We don't think so. We believe that we can continue to produce the same quantity of meat and milk, albeit using a different range of inputs and some modified farming practices.
Another question from Eamon. Is there work being done to acknowledge our ability to sequester carbon through our trees and hedgerows?
Yes, that work is starting and is part of the Signpost programme. So over the next 5 years or so, the Signpost farmers, you'll be meeting two of them later on the broadcast, their farms will be used to measure and monitor the movement of carbon through the atmosphere and in the soils. So we're confident that by the end of 2025, in a little over 4.5 years' time, that we will have a figure for the amount of carbon dioxide that has been stored in our soils, in our hedgerows, on the Signpost farms, and that information can allow us then to model and predict the amount of carbon that's stored on all farms at various locations across Ireland.
You mentioned the Signpost farmers. I think there'll be 100 farmers signed up to this programme, and somebody compared them to Operation Transformation leaders. How did you choose the farmers, and what type of farmers were you looking for?
So yes, we will have 100 Signpost farmers on the programme. We currently have approximately 2/3 of those selected. So I suppose, how did we select them? We worked through our advisory network. So we linked in with our advisor colleagues, and they identified farmers that they felt met the criteria in their local area. So the farmers were literally selected from the ground up through our advisory network. I suppose, what are we looking for? We're looking for farmers who understand the need to change, so understand the challenge of climate change, and realize that change is required, and that they're willing to work with Teagasc and our partners in the programme to implement those changes on their farm. So that's probably the first stage. And the second stage then that we'd be looking for is that the farmer then, having done that, is willing to share the story of their change or transformation. So to tell others about how easy it was to maybe change their fertilizer purchase pattern, to maybe reduce fertilizer a little bit, to incorporate clover, to spread slurry using low emission slurry spreading. So how the modification of practices fitted into their farm routines.
We have another question in from Siobhan. Will milk recording become mandatory in dairy for improved productivity in cows?
I don't know whether it'll become mandatory. I hear some whispers, I suppose, that some of the milk processors are perhaps considering that. And I suppose if you think about what we're trying to achieve to improve the efficiency of food production, thereby reducing the emissions per kilo of product produced, it seems to be a no-brainer, so to speak, that farmers would have that information. And we have beef farmers now who are regularly weighing cattle. So, why shouldn't dairy farmers regularly record the performance of their animals? It's a technology that's been around for many, many years. It's adopted by probably about 50% of our cows are currently recorded. Probably about 40% of our herds are milk recording. And there is a shift in required in that. So more farmers do need to milk record. We have recommended it as a good farm practice for many, many years. Will it become mandatory? I don't know.
Finally, and briefly, Tom, it's a 5-year programme. From Teagasc's point of view, what will mark it as successful? What will be a success for you?
I believe that success will be measured nationally by the level of emissions from agriculture, and they're measured and calculated every year by the EPA. And there's an annual figure for the emissions from agriculture. So that's ultimately the benchmark of success. And I think we can also look, it'll also be successful if we can reduce even further the carbon footprint of milk and meat produced on Irish farms.
Thank you very much, Tom Dwyer, and very best of luck with the programme. Well, we were talking there a little bit about the Signpost farmers, and it's time to meet two of them. First up, we visited Ger McSweeney's farm in Mill Street in County Cork.
My name is Ger McSweeney. I'm farming here with my wife Karen and my daughter Ella. We farm here near Mill Street in County Cork. Our main farming system here is suckling to beef, and it's predominantly a grass-based system. We have a 35 spring calving suckler herd here on the farm, and we use artificial insemination as our main breeding pen. Bulls are finished off farm at under 16 months, and heifers are slaughtered off farm between 22 and 24 months of age. This is very important in trying to reduce our carbon footprint, increase efficiencies, and reduce inputs into the farm. Breeding heifers are selected from their mums, their cows, potentially that are milky cows and that have good genetics and are fertile. This is very important to give me an efficient cow and breeding heifer that I can know is reliable, and that will give me a calf every year, and a good quality calf at that. Heifers are calved at 24 months of age. They are put in calves to a predominantly Solaire bull or an Angus bull. To get bulls and heifers slaughtered at a younger age and to increase carcass weight, weanlings have to be gaining good weight off grass every year. A very important part of the system here on the farm is to get the younger animals out on grass early on the year. To do this and to get very important to get the weight gains from grass early on so we can achieve our breeding weights. Efficiencies are very important on the farm here to get cattle slaughtered off the farm at a younger age, to increase carcass weights, to reduce inputs into the farm, and to be reducing our carbon footprint on the farm is very important. This is a win-win for everyone.
Over the last few years, I've supported Ger and Karen as they adopt new technologies here on their farm. Ger is involved in the local beef discussion group and GRAF 10 course, where the farmers openly discuss technologies regularly. Beef farming can be economically challenging, but with the right system and a good plan, Ger, Karen and farmers like them can be economically viable, while at the same time reducing greenhouse gas emissions on their farms. I'm absolutely delighted to have a Signpost farmer in this heavy soils area in North Cork. We have a lot of research from Grange and elsewhere that informs best practice, but it's really important to have local farmers that are implementing these technologies, as it encourages others to make a change on their farms as well.
And Ger McSweeney is here in studio with us now. And once again, if you have any questions for our Signpost farmers, type them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Ger, it's a big undertaking, being a Signpost farmer. Why did you sign up?
I suppose we'd like to develop the farm at home to be more efficient and to be more sustainable and to reduce our carbon footprint for the beef we produce on the farm. I suppose joining this program, we'd like to tap into the technologies out there and the sciences that Teagasc are implementing and bring them onto our own farm and improve our farm efficiencies, really.
Well, our second Signpost farmer is dairy farmer Stephen Fitzgerald from County Waterford, and we visited his farm recently.
I'm farming here in Eglish in County Waterford with my mother and father, Richard and Noreen. Married to Katrina, we have 3 small boys. We currently have 130 hectares on the farm. It's a fragmented farm, so we're milking 162 cows at the moment, and we're rearing all our calves through to beef. My carbon footprint on the farm per kg of fat and protein corrected milk is 1.06, and by reducing by 20% and using 100% protected urea, I will bring this to 0.82. My nitrogen use efficiency figure is 26%. I want to increase this to 35%. To increase my nitrogen use efficiency, we're measuring grass, we're soil fertility, and we're going to make better use of our slurry. We're testing our slurry for the first time, and we got surprisingly good results back out of it. So we're going to use all our slurry via trailing shoe and balance that with protected urea. And also on the farm, we have clover on the farm, but we plan to reduce on the clover areas to help encourage the clover to get established. Also this year, for the first time, we're going to try some mixed species and going to see how it goes as a trial. Currently, the herd EBI is €187. We genomically tested all the cows and heifers last year just to give us a better handle of what we have in the herd and what we want to breed for the future. Last year, we sold 522 kilos milk solids per cow, and the target is 550. We're breeding a cow, hopefully it'll be 570, 580 kilos herself, and calve down every February. Our current 6-week calving rate is 90% and has been with the last few years, and the plan is to keep it at that.
As the local dairy advisor in West Waterford, I work closely with Stephen and his family in developing this farm. On this farm, we want to ensure that the farm is economically viable, while at the same time ensuring that the environment is being protected and the family farm has a very good work-life balance. Farmers learn from other farmers, so the information that comes from this farm will give other farmers the confidence to try new technologies to reduce the gaseous emissions. Having a Signpost farm in this local area is a valuable asset to me because I can encourage more farmers to take on new technologies to take on climate action.
And Stephen Fitzgerald is in studio with us too. Stephen, thank you very much for joining us. You farm with your father, and we can see from the video there that you're already using some of these new technologies. Have you always followed, I suppose, the scientific advances in farming?
Yeah, where we can, we've always kind of trusted science, trusted research, and brought it home. And so far, it's worked for us, and it's got us where we are today. And it's looking forward now. It's next plan.
So we've got dairy and we've got beef, and beef in particularly can be financially challenging enterprise for farmers. Are you hopeful at all that some of these changes you bring about on your farm might help the money coming into your pocket?
Yeah, and it's very important, especially when beef is tight margin business, and I suppose anything that can help reduce our costs, reduce our inputs onto the farm, is a cost saving for us, and it helps the environment as well. Like a simple thing like clover introduced in grassland swards it can be a huge benefit to the reducing our nitrogen spend on the farm every year.
The challenges aren't always just financial. There's heavy soil in your farm and quite a lot of rain. So I suppose, are you interested to see a lot of the technologies might work very easily on a good environment, on good land? Are you interested to see how it will impact on you with those challenges?
Yes, it's challenging where I live and farm, and we do get well above average rainfall. So any technologies that can help us in this section would be gratefully welcome on the farm, and it's a win-win for everyone.
Stephen, there's an awful lot of focus on farmers at the moment and the impact you're having on the environment. Is that something you're conscious of, or do you feel the pressure of it at all?
Yeah, definitely. Every time you open a newspaper or open your phone, there's stuff happening outside the farm gate that reflects on us, and we want to be a part of the solution to fix the problem and to develop new ways and show other people that it can be done to leave the farm in a better place and going forward.
Are you conscious at all of stepping into stepping into the spotlight? Are you conscious of leaving yourself open to maybe comments or criticisms by being one of the Signpost farmers?
No, looking forward to it, because farmers looking over the ditch, next door neighbour farmer the whole time. So it's my turn for people looking over our ditch, and I've no bother doing it, because in the long run, if it benefits us, it'll benefit other people, and it's good to be a part of it.
At the end of the 5 years, what do you have hoped to have achieved by being a Signpost farmer?
I hope the farm is in a better place going forward, sustainably and financially going forward, than it is now. And as an industry, I hope everything is going in the right direction. And that's what I just want to be part of the bigger picture as such.
Are you positive at all, Ger, as a beef farmer in Ireland at the moment? Are you positive that these changes will be embraced by farmers?
I think that's why it's so important for farmers like ourselves to implement them on our farms locally, and to show people that technologies do work and we can implement them, and they can be cost saving. And there's nothing greater than a cost saving for a farmer to implement on his farm. So that's where we're hoping that we can introduce these systems onto our farms.
We have a question in at the moment from what do the two farmers think their biggest challenge will be during the programme? You, Ger, what do you think the biggest challenge for you will be?
Implementing technology and make it work. Technology is great, and bring it onto the farm, but unless you actually make it work in your farm, it is useless. You have to understand it and work it into the farm and make it user friendly.
That's something you enjoy, though. You enjoy the tech side of things.
Yeah, I love that. I love a challenge of bringing something in, but you have to have a cost saving and a time saving for the farmer as well. And if I can get extra hours off in the day and by implementing technology into the farm, it's more than welcome.
And for you, Stephen, aside from the neighbours looking over the ditch, what's the biggest challenge for you, do you think, of the 5-year programme?
Just putting the science and the research to work and making sure it works for the farm. It's all well and good doing these things, but it has to work for the farm. We still have to get up in the morning, milk the cows and make money at the end of the day. That's what we're in the business for. So as long as it works for the farm, that's the most important thing.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank both of you for joining us, Ger and Stephen, and the very best of luck during the 5-year programme. And now it's time to officially launch the Signpost programme. So I'm going to hand you back to Chairman of the Teagasc Authority, Liam Hurley.
I would like to introduce you to a short video from our Ministers for State, Minister Pippa Hackett and Minister Martin Hayden, and also the Chairman of the Oireachtas Committee, Deputy Jackie Cahill.
As someone who comes from a farming background, I firmly believe that farmers, farm families and rural communities are part of the solution to our climate and biodiversity challenge. All sectors of the Irish economy, including agriculture, have a role to play on the journey towards carbon neutrality by 2050. I look forward to supporting and enabling farm families to take more positive actions to improve our countryside and environment. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish Teagasc and all of the Signpost farmers and partners well with this new and exciting initiative. Túr ara, Fon Slán, agus mór oraibh.
Our response to the climate and biodiversity crisis will determine our future. Our decisions around future land use will be critical. We have to work with nature and support farmers to implement nature-based solutions to the many challenges we face. The EU's Green Deal and its farm to fork and biodiversity strategies have set ambitious targets, and I want to reassure farmers that this is the correct approach. I am determined to support and empower farmers to move to a new model of farming. Over the next 10 years, we can rise to the challenge and shape a better future. We have the knowledge, it can be done. We just have to choose to do it. Finally, I'm delighted to see the whole of industry collaborative approach adopted by the Signpost programme, and I believe that by working together, we can make it happen.
Climate change is a real problem and requires us to act now. We can turn the challenges of climate change and the requirements for climate action into an economic opportunity for rural Ireland. Sustainable food production is essential and does need now to move towards even more sustainable systems in the future. I wish Teagasc and all of the Signpost farmers and partners well with this new and exciting initiative and look forward to following the progress of local Signpost farmers in County Tipperary.
Thanks, Ministers, and thanks, Deputy Cahill. I will now hand you over to our Teagasc Director, Professor Jory Ball, to speak to you and to officially launch our Signpost programme. Professor Ball.
Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, Today's event is important because it underlines the seriousness with which the entire agriculture and food sector considers the challenge of climate change. And it demonstrates the willingness of farmers, processors, state agencies, and the department to work in lockstep to address the challenge. When it comes to agriculture and climate change, there are two misunderstandings that need to be nailed. First, in most public discussions about agriculture's contribution to climate change, the focus is on the sector's 35% share of CO2 equivalent greenhouse gases. But what's important is the sector's contribution to global warming. And that's much lower. About 2/3 of agricultural emissions arise because of biogenic methane. And biogenic methane is a short-lived gas compared with CO2 or nitrous oxide. If the production of biogenic methane can be stabilized, then this source of global warming will be neutralized. However, it's going to take time for regulation to catch up with the science. And in the meantime, it makes little sense to engineer a precipitous reduction in ruminant livestock numbers. A second misunderstanding is that agriculture is the same as every other sector and must bear its burden of adjustment. There is no issue about agriculture standing up to the plate in respect of the non-methane gases. The sector, like other sectors, is being called upon to decarbonize. Teagasc research work on the MAX and the department's Ag Climatized paper set out what can be done with the non-methane gases. The Signpost programme points to how this can be achieved on our farms. And we confidently anticipate that science will continue to deliver further technological solutions. Where the sector is utterly different, however, concerns the unreasonable requests in it to substantially reduce emissions of biogenic methane. A substantial reduction in biogenic methane will not be possible without a substantial reduction in animal numbers. Such a development would adversely affect livelihoods in rural Ireland, and not just on farms, but in processing plants and the wider rural economy. There's an obvious point that's worth stating. Animals are essential to the production of meat and milk. Indeed, they are existential inputs for our meat and dairy industries. And no other sector has this characteristic. Sure, adapting to climate change will present other sectors with additional costs as they switch inputs from fossil fuel sourced inputs to more carbon friendly or carbon free inputs. But this adjustment will not threaten the very existence of these sectors. The programme that's being launched today is but one contribution to ensuring that the sector plays its part in addressing the challenge of global warming. Other national policy and regulatory measures can be anticipated. Also, food processing companies, no doubt, will be bringing forward their own initiatives. Farmers themselves are also likely to be innovative in their responses. I hope, in fact, that the Signpost programme will act as a catalyst for all sorts of innovative responses. I hope also that it inspires young farmers, in particular, to grasp the opportunities which were always on the flip side of the challenges. We in Teagasc will ensure that our education and training programs, including our new CPD program, will enable farmers of the future to embrace the sustainability challenge with confidence. Our chairman has acknowledged all of the various partners that are in support of this program. And I'm confident that as this program proceeds over the years, more and more partners will want to become involved. I want to conclude by acknowledging the creativity and hard work of my colleagues on this program. It's built on several years of top-class research. It's very much a collaborative effort, but Frank O'Mara led the development from the outset and can also be credited with the title Signpost Farms. Pat Murphy, who's the head of Environment Knowledge Transfer, was also centrally involved from the beginning. And in the last few months, Thomas Dwyer has done Trojan work as manager of the program. We have the solutions. Now we've got to get on with their implementation. It's my great pleasure, therefore, to officially launch the Signpost program. Thank you. And back to you, Chairman.
Thanks, Director. I will now ask a short video to be shown in relation to our partners in this program.
Farmers and rural Ireland understand the need for climate action. With the right support and measures, farmers will respond and step up.
Environment and environmental footprint is critical as we move forward. That's why it's absolutely important that we have the science and the farming facts to back that up in the years ahead. To the pioneer farmers who have been identified, I salute you for your endeavours in the weeks and months and years ahead as you become the pioneers of farming in Ireland into the future.
Farmers are well used to coping with extreme weather events, so can relate to climate change. We welcome the commitment of the Signpost programme to provide training for all farmers, including education for young farmers on sustainable farming systems.
I am very pleased to support the Signpost Farm programme. Reducing greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture is a challenge, but by coming together to encourage progress, it can be done.
There's no single solution to reducing emissions. Each farm is different and can contribute in different ways. And there is many solutions that farmers can explore.
We want to show that it can be done through Teagasc, working with the farmer, and that every farmer can be part of the solution to climate change.
We, the industry partners, are delighted to support climate action at farm level.
We have a global reputation for producing high quality food and drink.
However, consumers are demanding higher sustainability standards of us.
Lower emissions, reduced inputs, farming with nature, looking after our soils, water and biodiversity.
We need to protect our industry by ensuring its sustainability.
This creates both challenges and opportunities for us.
The challenges include meeting our commitments to reduce gaseous emissions, improve water quality and enhance biodiversity.
How we farm will need to change.
In my experience, when farmers are invited to participate in schemes such as this, they have always risen to the occasion. And this time it will be no different. They will support this one too.
They are best placed to be part of the solution.
Research has provided us with the technologies to make a start. New research will provide more solutions.
These technologies must become routine practice on farms.
Working together, we can support our farmers to change farming practices.
We will work with farmers to reduce emissions, reduce inputs, save costs, and improve the efficiency of food production.
It will not always be easy, but it is possible.
Maintaining vital rural communities through the transition will require a whole of industry approach.
This new Signpost programme can inspire all farmers to continue their journeys to more sustainable farming systems.
It is a partnership of farmers, industry and state agencies working together for climate action.
And we, the industry partners, are delighted to support climate action at farm level.
A more sustainable model of agriculture is achievable, and by working together, Signpost partners can provide farmers with the information and knowledge necessary to make better and more sustainable decisions.
We are all working together now for future generations.
In drawing this morning's proceedings to a close, I feel it is important that I acknowledge the commitment of our Director, Professor Jerry Boyle, and his team in leading this programme today and ensuring that so many other companies and farming organisations are a part of it. What is important in Professor Boyle's address to you this morning, I felt what really stood out is when he speaks about sustainability and the twin track approach of sustainability, both from an environmental and an economic perspective. He clearly puts down a marker that both can be achieved. We can deal with the climate change and climate challenge without the incomes of farmers being sacrificed within the farm gate. And I think that is something that is positive, and it's an opportunity for all of us to develop. What is equally important is that we are all working together here. And the collaborative approach and commitment of Irish businesses, state agencies, or organisations and our farmers must be seen as an extremely positive development in the way forward, because we can do this, and we can do it by joined at the hip from a collective perspective. I felt what was hugely important today was listening to the videos of our two farmers, Stephen Fitzgerald and Ger McSweeney, because the Signpost programme for the future, it is all about using research at its best, using Teagasc's educational and advisory systems to process and to communicate that best-in-class information through our Signpost programme farmers and there to our discussion groups. And I believe it was so important to see the positive commitment by those two farmers today. That is what our Irish farming system is all about, where it is handing over from father to son, or should I say from father to the next generation and to the next generation again. And that was clearly demonstrated by our clips from those two farmers today. That is something I really appreciated. It is the step forward. So I would say in conclusion, this morning is a step in the right direction. It is a positive move. Let's embrace change from a positive perspective. This country and our agri-industry will be a better place for all of us and for the next generation. Let's move forward in a positive step. Thanks to all who participated today. I just saw that we had more than 900 participants, which speak volumes. I wish you all happy farming for the year and years ahead. And I wish the Signpost farming and its people good luck and success for the next years and many more to follow. With that, I draw the proceedings to a close.